Hello to anyone and everyone watching. My name is Danielle. I'm Danielle Rueger. I wear a variety of different hats in different areas of my life. During the day, I am a micro internship advocate for a company called Parker Dewey. We work in paid, professional, real world projects for students and recent graduates, so y'all can get experience, try out different careers. But the reason I'm talking to you all today is because of my role on the side as a children's book illustrator. Some other fun facts about me is I'm a nature enthusiast, love being outside, love going on hikes, also an animal lover. I have a dog named Emma and two cats named Ollie and Peekaboo. But again, the reason I'm talking to y'all today is my role as a children's book illustrator. If you have any interest in learning more about me or checking out some of my portfolio, I will make sure I share the slides with the wonderful folks organizing this so you can see some examples of my illustration work. But on to why we're talking today. Some of the books that I've illustrated, you can see here. Again, you can see more examples of this work on my portfolio site. But I love bringing different people's, including sometimes my own, works to life. I love hearing stories or getting ideas in my own head and getting those down on paper. There's something really therapeutic about just taking something that exists in your mind and putting it out in the real world. So that's what we're going to be working on a little bit today. This kind of goes hand in hand with the project I'm currently working on called the Book of Random. And this is a book designed to help children understand the differences between nouns, adjectives, and verbs. So I know for my audience today, y'all already know the difference, but just in case you need a refresher, because sometimes I find even adults like myself can use a refresher, we're going to do a quick refresher right now on what the difference between nouns, adjectives, and verbs are. So for nouns, definition is any word that is used to identify any class of people, places, or things. So that's our technical definition. For me, I don't always find technical definitions quite as helpful. I like a good tip or a good exercise. So basically, if you can point at it, there's a good chance it's a noun. So I'm in my craft room right now. Behind my computer, there is a sewing machine. I can point at that. Sewing machine is a noun. I can point at my phone. I can point at scissors. I can point at the necklace I've got sitting over here at the remote. All nouns. And a good rule of thumb is if you can point at something and say, wow, that's a really cool, and whatever you put in there makes sense, that word is probably a noun. So we've got some examples there. So you can see how these would fit. Wow, that's a really cool bear. That's a really cool cheese. It's a really cool table, really cool saxophone, really cool state, really cool teacher. Those are all examples of nouns. So the next thing we'll do a quick reminder about is exactly what adjectives are. So the definition is a word or phrase used to describe something. Again, I like to have a handy little tip or an example. So if it fits in the following sentence, wow, that's a blank cat. If it fits in that word, then there's a good chance that it's probably an adjective. So some of the examples we see there, you see how they would fit right into that sentence. Wow, that's a fluffy cat. Wow, that's a silly cat. Wow, that's a long cat. Wow, that is a complicated cat. Wow, that is an angry cat. Wow, that's a yellow cat. And wow, that's a hot cat. That's a weird sentence to say. Hopefully we're talking about temperature. But anyways, that is how you can kind of get an idea of whether something is likely an adjective or not. And then we get to verbs, the doing of things. So a verb is a used word to describe an action. So I know this gets a little bit confusing with adjectives, or at least I felt like it did when I was first learning about these things, because we just said, well, adjectives are used to describe things. So you could use an adjective to describe an action like actually running, but this is the actual word that stands in for the action. So again, got a little tip. If you can fit it in this sentence, good chance that it is a verb. So if you can do it, you can use it in this sentence. I can't wait to, whatever you put in there, probably going to be a verb. So again, we've got examples. I can't wait to swim. I can't wait to write. I can't wait to play, sing, visit, act, go, grow. All of these are examples of verbs. So I know at this point you may be thinking, well, this woman is doing a lot of talking about like language arts and grammar. Where does the creative exercise actually come into play? And this is where we're going to talk about the creative exercise, starting first by making it clear what you need to have to do this creative exercise. So the first thing you're going to want to have at the ready to bring up in your web browser is a random word generator, because this exercise is designed to help us kind of itch different parts of our brains, get them involved, take us a little bit out of our comfort zone. If you already draw a lot, maybe you've gotten the habit of drawing the same things over and over. This is designed to push you, to help you get more creative. So that's where the random word generator comes into play. And then the other things you're going to need are something to draw with. Now, this can be drawing in the physical world, in which case you're going to need something that can make a mark on paper, a pencil, charcoal, markers, crayons, whatever you got. Going to work just fine. It doesn't need to be perfect, just needs to allow you to engage in the exercise. And then a piece of paper, cardboard, whatever you have around that you were able to draw on, and no one else is going to miss it if you mark on it. It's going to work. Alternatively, if you do have an iPad and you already have Procreate downloaded, Procreate is what I like to do with this exercise, just because I am really bad at losing markers and pen and paper and all that stuff, but I am pretty decent at keeping track of my iPad. So if you have an iPad, you could use Procreate. If you have an Apple Pencil or access to one, you could use that for this exercise as well, but absolutely not needed. Again, you can do this with good old-fashioned paper and pencil. So step one, we're going to generate random words. So this is where that word generator comes into play. So I'm going to open it up so y'all can see what this word generator looks like. I'm sure there are other word generators out there, but I like to use randomwordgenerator.com. One, because it's free, it's easy, and it gives us the opportunity to clarify what type of words we want. So this is where we're going to involve, again, the nouns, the verbs, the adjectives, because we get to select one of each. And that's what we're going to do for this exercise. So first step is we're going to ask this to give us a noun. It's moving just a little slow this afternoon. We're going to give it a chance to catch up. Come on, computer, you can do it. I believe in you. Once it catches up, there we go. You can see how you can select what you're looking for. We're going to start with noun once it catches up to us. Again, you can do it, computer. There we go. And then if you want to limit it, maybe you are like, I want to keep things relatively simple. You can say, give me a simple noun, something that is only, one syllable. So we can see an example here. A one-syllable noun could be health. Another one-syllable noun could be mood. Another one-syllable, it really likes the word health, heart. So you can point, well, look at that. Look at their mood. Look at that heart. Look at their health. So again, things you could kind of point at, they refer to something specific. Look at those clothes. If you don't want to limit it, you don't have to do that. You can reset those options and just go for any noun, but some of them can get a little bit more complicated. So internet, you can kind of point, that one's a little bit harder to point to, but you could say, wow, look at that internet. It kind of fits. Look at the assistant. Look at that ability. Look at the committee. So there's a wide range of here. So the first thing you want to do is select that you want to look at a noun. And then if you want to put limits on it, go ahead and do that. And then I encourage you to use the first one you get. That makes it more of a challenge. But if you're looking that first one and you're going, ooh, I have no idea how to draw a committee. I don't know. You can take the challenge, encourage it. Or if you're like, that is too much for me, I want something else, just hit the button again and it'll give you another option. Personally, I think it might be even harder to do importance, but you can keep going if you want to until you get something that you feel is a good fit or something you would know how to draw. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to get our adjective. So this is where you're going to change to the different word type. Again, if you want to limit it, you can. But this is where you will pick out an adjective to use for your drawing. So the first one that comes up with festive, I've got some fun ideas of how I could illustrate festive. Oh, victorious is a good one. Successful, that would be a little harder. Frightened would be fun to do. So you can see variety of adjectives. Same things with nouns. I encourage you, if you're up for the challenge, even if it's a tough one, take the first one you get. If you're like, no, I want something that I at least would have some idea off the bat how to draw, go ahead and generate random words until you get something that you think is going to be a fit for your skills or what you want to be doing. And then we're going to get our verb. So same thing, we're going to change the word type. If you want to put limits on it, you can, and then generate those doings. So somebody might compete, somebody could share, somebody could tempt. So those are is our first step, is you're going to open your random word generator and you're going to get a noun, you're going to get an adjective, and you're going to get a verb. So here's an example from one I have done in the past. I'm using the random word generator, and myself, I hold myself to, I've got to stick to whatever that first word is. The noun I got was variation. And I'm not going to lie, I was like, I do not know how to do that up front. I had to think about it for a while. The adjective I got was jazzy. I thought, okay, that's a fun one. I can work with jazzy. And then the verb I got was clutch. So the next step, once you've got your random words, is to create a sentence with these words. So think about how you can arrange them in a way that is going to create something that you could draw, that you could illustrate on paper, on Procreate, on whatever you happen to be using. So there are a variety of different ways to go around this, but the rules that I set for myself and that I encourage you to set is there really are no rules other than you have to use those words. So I personally love to draw animals. I love to draw animals doing human things. So even if none of the words I got were animals or anything having to do with animals, I usually try to have the animals be the subject of the illustration and doing something with whatever that noun, adjective, and verb were. So here we have an example of the sentence I created with the noun, adjective, and the verb that I received. Like I said, koala was not one of the words I got at all from the generator, but I love to draw animals. So I said, we're going to work a koala into this equation. So the sentence that I created was the koala used one hand to keep a tight clutch on the tree while playing a variation of jazzy notes with the other. So when I looked at that noun, adjective, and verb, once I decided, okay, I want an animal, and I had the adjective jazzy, well, immediately when I hear jazzy, I'm thinking, okay, what is more jazzy than a saxophone? So I knew I wanted an animal playing the saxophone. And I had gone to the zoo recently and I thought the koalas were really cute. And once I had those two things put together, I was like, well, a koala is often in a tree. They've got to clutch that tree. And this is where I can fit in the variation, because when you're playing jazz, that is a wide range of wild notes. So that's how I got to my sentence. So again, with verb clutch, noun variation, and adjective jazzy, the sentence I came up with was the koala used one hand to keep a tight clutch on the tree while playing a variation of jazzy notes with the other. So now that I had my sentence, I was ready for the fun part, the illustration. So I'm going to walk you through the steps of the illustration. I'm taking you to my Instagram right now so we can actually watch the video of this illustration. And first thing I always like to start with is the noggin, setting up the head and putting it together. Now this is moving much quicker than I am actually moving. This is my entire illustration process set down to 30 seconds. But you can see, even just getting the shape of the saxophone took me a lot of tries. But once I got the general outline of everything, that's where I got to start adding value, adding texture to the tree, and adding that variation of jazzy notes. Now I'm going to pull this out a little bit so I can show this to you without being quite so zoomed in. There we go. We'll watch that one more time so you can see how I did this exercise. Once I got my sentence, I said, okay, I'm drawing that koala with a clutch on the tree, playing a variation of jazzy notes. So that clutch was maybe the second thing. After I had that head, you can see I had those hands. Also, if you have not looked at koala hands before, really interesting, the way that they can split in between and where they split in between. Just interesting side note, fun fact. But again, you can see how I illustrated that koala playing a variation of jazzy notes on that tree. So this is the point in the exercise where I encourage you to maybe hit pause and set a timer for yourself. Think about what time you have left today, how much time you want to spend on this. Just enough time, I would recommend, to kind of get out of your head a little bit, really get into it, maybe 20 minutes, maybe a half hour, pick some music, that you vibe with. There's no specific recommended music, just something that makes you feel good, puts you in a creative zone, and take the time to illustrate your results. So again, this is the good time right here. Pause the video. And welcome back. If you've just unpaused the video, that means that you have taken the time to put together your drawing. And I hope that you are really excited with the results. I hope that even if you don't necessarily like the drawing itself, this gave you some time to get creative, to think outside of the box, to draw something that maybe you wouldn't normally draw, and to think about some words and scenarios and those types of things that maybe you wouldn't normally think about. In case you want to see some other examples of how I have done this in the past, each of these links to a different video. Just to give another example, show this real quick. Sorry again for the speed of my computer today, y'all. It is really just moving a little slow. So in this one, I got the noun way, the verb fire, and the adjective ambitious. So again, I really had to take a little bit of a moment and think, how am I going to work all of these into a sentence that is going to be something fun for me to illustrate? Now you'll notice again, none of the words really had anything to do with a fox, nothing to do with an eagle, but those were the animals I felt like drawing that day. So that's how I worked them into the equation. The sentence I ended up creating was the overly ambitious. So that's where we worked ambitious into there. The overly ambitious eagle took on too many projects, and because their attention was pulled in so many ways, so this is where I was flexible a little bit. I did pluralize the noun, but that's how I worked it in there. So because their attention was pulled in so many ways, their boss, the fox, if you didn't pick up on that, their boss noticed a decline in performance and fired them. So that's where I worked in fire as a verb as well. So as you can see from the illustration, I actually started this upside down. I never know which way I'm supposed to be holding the iPad. But it was a fun way for me to just draw some things I was interested in, but have them be doing something that I otherwise wouldn't be knowing anything about. It's like, what kind of career would an eagle and a fox both be doing? As you can see from the example here, I decided, they're going to be working on a fence. I'm going to have this eagle carrying a paint bucket. I'm going to have them carrying a rope. I'm going to have them carrying a hammer. I'm going to have them carrying a paintbrush. I'm going to do all sorts of things with this construction eagle. And then I got to add the fun red orange vests because they're in construction, is trying to accomplish. And then I get to add this fox saying, that's it. That's too many things at once, eagle. You got to focus. I can't have you. It's a hazard. You're out of here. Again, nothing where I ever would have woken up and said, you know what I'm going to draw today? I'm going to draw a fox firing an eagle because they're just too distracted. But the exercise gets me out of my normal zone. It gives me the chance to be creative. It gives me the chance to do something fun without me having to come up with it entirely myself. Because sometimes there is more creativity once you have a few guidelines than just saying go and be creative. So if you are interested, please feel free to click on these. Again, each leads to a video. You can see the noun, the adjective, the verb that I got, what I did with it. And that is the exercise. I hope that this was fun for y'all. I hope that you create some really fun art, and I appreciate you spending some time with me today.